Welcome to the Caregiver Circle podcast, where caregivers connect, share, and feel seen. Join hosts Karen McKevitt and Meredith Stewart each week for conversations, support, and encouragement designed to help you navigate the caregiving journey with confidence, compassion, and community. This is a space built for caregivers, one rooted in connection, understanding, and support. Welcome to the Caregiver Circle.
Welcome to the Caregiver Circle. This is going to be a powerful episode on growth, and our very own Meredith is going to have a live session right now with her DISC assessment.
I'm excited to hear it. I've looked at it, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me other than the details. So I'm excited.
Well, we had such a wonderful conversation in our last episode with Michele Bordonaro, so we've brought her back. So welcome back to the circle.
Thank you. I am excited to be here. And Meredith, I know you were a little nervous and maybe even fearful, and I'm hoping we can break that down and make it super simple and show those aha moments for you. Maybe even have a little bit of relief.
Yeah, I was scared. I was like, oh, what's this going to tell me?
Well, and if you listened last time, Michele shared with us the benefit of using the DISC assessments in grief, and she's tailored it to grief with the caregivers for us. So between episodes, Meredith took the assessment, and now Michele is going to give us the results. So I'm going to turn this over to you, Michele. Let's dive in.
Well, let's do it. All right. Well, first, Meredith, thank you for your willingness to do this with me. And I know it takes a lot of courage to explore something as personal as your personality and communication style, especially in a conversation that others will be listening to. So my hope is that as we walk through your report today, you'll gain a deeper understanding of yourself, and the listeners, you all, will recognize pieces of yourselves along the way. So before we dive into the report, I'm going to frame what we're going to do together. I want to remind us that this assessment is not at all about labeling or putting your personality into a box. It is about giving us the language for understanding how you're just naturally wired and the strengths that you've learned to rely on throughout your life. So I often say that grief is the change you didn't want. But the truth is, life brings so many challenges and changes that we never planned for. All of a sudden, we wake up one morning as a caregiver in relationship challenges, career changes, and the moments that ask us to do more than we ever really expected or planned for. So DISC is not at all going to tell us how much we love or how deeply we grieve or how resilient we are. What it's going to show us is how we naturally communicate or how we naturally make those decisions, respond to stress, and connect with everyone else. It also is going to help us recognize the strategies that we learn to rely on when life gets uncertain. And we've all created them. We've all have protectors and ways of coping. And that's what we're going to talk about. So today is not about changing who Meredith is at all. It's about understanding Meredith more deeply so she can work with her strengths instead of against them. So we're going to get started. And the very first question is super simple. Meredith, what stood out to you most as you read the report? What felt accurate or surprised you? Maybe challenged you?
I guess I wasn't overly surprised by it, but trying to figure out how it all fits together, I couldn't do that.
Okay.
It was just more of a, what does that mean?
Now let's figure that out. So remember, this report doesn't tell us who you are at all. It helps us understand how you're learning to move through the world. And when we can understand that, we can begin to navigate all those life little changes with greater awareness and choice. So let's see where your story begins. The DISC graphs. There's 3 graphs: public self, a stress self, and a self-perception graph. Let's break that down. Public self. This reflects, Meredith, how you naturally show up in your everyday interactions. And it's how you learn to adapt to the expectations of the people and environments around you. So when you look at that, does this feel like the version of you that most people know? And let's talk about that graph. Where do you land on the chart?
I land highest in steady, the S, and lowest in dominant and influencing, which I would agree with that.
Okay, tell me more.
So I'm not a dominant person. I've been in leadership roles and that wasn't what I enjoyed doing. Influencing others, that is not my thing. So I can definitely see why that was the very lowest. So steady was where I was highest, and I can definitely see I can be oversensitive, slow to begin, be accepting, not like insensitivity and impatience. I definitely could see that. And then compliant, yeah, I'm a rule follower, so I'm not surprised that it was higher than the others either.
Now, what's interesting, again, there's 3 graphs. I'm going to remind you, that's how others see you. And it was very key on using the language of how you've learned to adapt to the world around you. Because notice what is different. So I realized we should talk about D, I, S, and C. The D is dominant, seeks control, and admiration, leadership, determination is a strength. Can be a little impatient, dislikes, indecision. The I is influencing, you like recognition and persuading others, maybe challenged in detail and kind of a short attention span. And the I dislikes routine and complexity. So the S is the steady, and we'll get more into that, and the C is compliant. So what Meredith you're describing, notice the DISC, you're above the line. Your strong suit is what? The steady.
Steady.
Meredith, super comfortable with acceptance and listening and teamwork. You use the word oversensitive yourself. And insensitivity, you dislike that. So that is where you're naturally going to stay based on how others perceive you. That all becomes super important because let's explain how you see yourself.
For DI and S, I see myself pretty closely to my public self, but my compliant is higher. It's almost equal with steady in how I see myself.
Interesting. What does that tell you?
That I'm way more compliant than, or I think I'm way more compliant than others think I am.
Or how you navigate the world, the way they see you. Because remember, they think you are based on actions and behaviors and choices.
Gotcha.
So it's not how they think, it's how they're perceiving you in the world. So when I say it that way, what do you notice and think about?
The main thing that others are perceiving of me is true in who I am or who my perceived self is.
Meredith loves accuracy. You want to be precise to the perfectionist, potentially, and planning systems.
And I do a lot of that in the background, so others aren't actually seeing that. Those are the things that I'm doing behind the scenes.
Well, I'll jump in real quick. I think it makes a whole lot of sense as we're building this Caregiver Circle brand. What our listeners are going to hear and ultimately see when we bring this to social and everything, we're not going to see all the efforts that Meredith is doing in the background. It's just naturally happening. But that is because of who she is and looking at all of where her dots are. This is also what makes her a wonderful caregiver.
Mm-hmm. And what I think you uncovered is really important. What I'm hearing you say is that the world experiences your steadiness, your calmness, and your dependability, and your willingness to listen super well. But what they don't always see is everything happening behind the scenes for Meredith. They don't see all the planning she does, all the organization. They don't see that mental preparation that you have to give. They don't see how much thought and care goes into literally making everything work.
I would agree with that. That's who I am. I would rather be behind the scenes and putting pieces in place, and getting things the way they need to be, rather than, out there leading or influencing or any of those things. I prefer behind the scenes.
Yes, it's kind of like an iceberg, and I'll get into an iceberg later, but people see above the surface and they're not seeing below the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, when life gets really hard, do people only see the calm version while you're carrying everything underneath?
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly right. And that's the point.
I would even harbor a guess that you hear the words, you make it look so easy, because they're just seeing the completed or public side, but they don't know really how much genuine effort you've put in the background because you prefer that background role.
Right. Yeah, I definitely prefer the background.
This becomes super important because you're like, how does this all connect together? So we're going to start to dive into that a little bit. You said something, Meredith, very, very profound. I keep it to myself, I believe you said.
Yes.
And that's not a disc observation, that is a life observation. So if you keep it to yourself, what I'm noticing is that the world experiences someone who's calm and dependable.
Mm-hmm.
And you're carrying all that independently, and it's a great deal of weight. And because Meredith is so capable, people do not see the authentic Meredith. So who takes care of the person everyone else depends on?
Me. There is nobody else. It's me.
And maybe there could be. We're not here to solve all those answers. What we're here to do is track the awareness today. When communication is strong, we feel most understood and seen. As we start, does Meredith feel understood and seen? No right or wrong here. I'm always going to keep telling you that. Those are your defaults. And that's why it's super important. Let's go back to that graph. The public self doesn't even see the C at all. So now you're going to gain awareness.
I don't know that I want the world to see that. I like being not seen and being in the background.
But Meredith, I'll also jump in and say, you being my co-host took a really, really brave step at being seen, because this is so out of your comfort zone. So I think you have the braveness to step out and be seen when you have the right support.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Good, Karen, it was perfect. And just as important, not more importantly, I almost said, is that Meredith, this is about showing awareness of where you can feel heard in when you're challenged under grief and what's happening, or caregiving, or stressful moments, and where your defaults become. And again, as we keep going, I feel like this is going to start to make more sense. Does that help with that?
It does. I do have one question on the graph. So if it is at 0 or under, it's not seen at all?
It is not your default. So if
Okay.
it's at 0, it's just you're not utilizing those skills.
Yeah,
That's why
so
we look at,
really for the public self, it is, I mean, really, it's steady because everything else is 0 or below, or right at 0 or below. That's interesting.
And Meredith, just for a comparison, I'm looking at the assessment I took a year ago, which is slightly different than the one that we're reviewing today. And for me, steady is exactly where everybody sees me. That is my default, and that is my stressed version. So steady is my comfort zone. So, I seek acceptance. I'm listening. I'm trying to figure out teamwork. Follow through is very important to me. And then, when I take the caregiving situation that I found myself in, those were very important qualities because at least when we were in the medical facilities, acceptance of I knew what I was talking about was very important to me as I was relaying the information to doctors, nurses, and whoever else, walked in the room. So acceptance was very important to me because I needed them to know that I had an equal voice in this caregiving journey that we found ourselves in. And then structurally looking at the listening, teamwork, and follow through, I looked at our medical team as that. It was a team trying to support my person to get us through whatever challenges we had faced or were going to face. So that's kind of where I see my steadiness was a real asset through all of that.
And let me try to break it down a little. Let me say it this way, is that it doesn't mean that that technique or skill isn't there. It simply means it's where our nervous system goes first. We all have every single one of those disc styles. We all have the dominant, the influence, the steady, and the compliant. It's a toolbox, and you own every tool. But when life happens quickly, you instinctively reach for the same tools first. Those are your defaults. Does that help make sense?
That does. I can see that.
That is exactly why this matters so much in grief and caregiving. Because when we're overwhelmed and exhausted or living through uncertainty, we don't usually develop some new, brand new coping strategy. We lean so much harder on the ones we've always trusted. So the goal isn't to stop being a high C or a high S. It's just to simply recognize those patterns. So now you understand the self-perception and the public perception. Now, what do you notice under stress?
Feel steady.
And
My compliance has come up.
I would even say is above your steadiness.
Right. Compliance has come even higher
right,
than steady.
correct. That's what I want to be. So what's happening, notice your C becomes your go-to under stress above anything else. Oh, wait, make another notice. Your influence also comes up. Your D stays pretty much the same. So when Meredith is under stress, compliance, safety, security. What else is under that compliance?
Critical, unresponsive. Wow, that nails me.
When you're backed into a corner, tell me more about that. Finish that thought.
That definitely, when I'm under stress, those are exactly my things. Unresponsive, there's no reason to contact me because I'm ignoring everyone at that point until I get through what I'm doing. I'm very critical of everything that I'm doing, striving to be a perfectionist at that point. Those are definitely challenges. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Okay, now I'm going to take it a step further. And this is really important. I don't hear Meredith trying to be critical. I hear Meredith trying to regain certainty.
I can see that for sure.
Because what I'm noticing is that when life gets hard for Meredith, your nervous system reaches even more strongly toward preparation and structure. That is trying to regain certainty. Does that feel true?
Yes, it does. That makes sense.
So what are you noticing now with this information? I want to know what you're feeling.
I worry that my dominant part being that low as a caregiver, that concerns me.
Say more.
I feel like because I have to be my mom's voice in a lot of situations, that my steady side may be holding me back from what I should be doing for her. Like, I'm 6 years in. So had I seen this 6 years ago when she was having to relearn to eat and had no memory, maybe it would have been more then, and maybe now I don't need it as much because she's able to do that. I think that's what I'm thinking at this point, is that concerns me.
Okay, well, first, thank you for saying that. And I can hear a little bit of fear in your voice, and that it's very concerning for you. Now, for something I'm noticing, your graph is certainly not telling you you're incapable of advocating. It's telling you how you advocate. And there is a huge difference. People often think dominance means being loud or forceful, maybe even confrontational. We don't believe that. Advocacy doesn't have to sound loud and powerful. Everything you're sharing in what your graph tells me is that you prepare, you organize, you think, you understand. And then when it matters, you speak. That's advocacy too. Have there been moments with your mom you found your voice because you needed to?
Sure.
The way I just spoke about that, does that make sense? Does that resonate?
It does, yeah.
I also want to just jump in real quick too, looking at how someone in the compliant category makes decision, it's listed as methodical. So knowing that you like to work in the background, it doesn't mean you're not advocating for your person. It's that you're trying to gather all your information to make the best decision. Under the dominant trait, decisions are made very decisively. Again, that's not saying there isn't, conferring or methodical information there, but I think a dominant person just hears it and says, this is my decision. Whereas someone in the steady, like myself, and compliant in that stress situation, we want to make sure we're making the best decision. So that's why we want to make a second opinion important. That's why we have to get all of our facts to make sure that we're making that decision. So it's not that a lack of dominancy is a bad thing or that it's a lower category. It's just we're still gathering the information and we're going to dictate the timeline. It's not, yes, go, but it also depends on the circumstances.
Sure.
And I want to remind us, I think I want to say very clearly, one of the biggest mistakes people make with personality assessments is believing it's telling us what we're capable of.
Mhm.
They don't. They simply describe the path we naturally use to get there. Caregivers walk into a room and immediately take charge, and others go and quietly gather information and prepare and build the trust and then advocate when the moment calls for it. Both are advocacy. There's simply just a different road to get there. And this is the map to show you how you default. And I want to also not negate something that you said because it's important. I think it was something like, well, if I had this maybe 6 years ago, that's regret language, and it's very subtle. As you look back 6 years, is there part of you wondering if you could have done something differently?
Yeah.
And that is where this information becomes really helpful. What happens for you is you realize your strengths may have been helping you all along. There isn't something you should have done. It's the awareness. That's the healing. Okay. So now let's go to the next section, precisionist. So now we've looked at how you tend to show up in the world. That's all we're looking at is how does Meredith show up in the world? How you respond when life gets hard and how you see yourself. This is where we begin to understand what naturally helps you feel safe, what motivates you, what you value, and the strengths you've relied on your whole life. Remember, none of these characteristics are good or bad. Every single strength has a shadow, and every protective strategy has likely served an important purpose at some point in your life, protecting you. And the goal is not at all to change Meredith, the beautiful person that you are. It's to better understand so you can begin to work with your strengths. So as you read through your precisionist description, what parts felt like someone you've been following, it's been following you around your whole life?
I think the whole thing is very me, in what I see of me or think of me. It didn't really surprise me. I know that trust and loyalty and dependability, those are the things that, those things are important to me. And I like to think before I make a decision. And I don't share. I turn inward with most things, especially under stress.
So to that point, for our listeners, a precisionist, right? Need for clarity, need for certainty. Those needs are not bad. That's what makes Meredith feel safe and seen and loyal, extremely loyal. Maybe extremely high standards, thoughtful, intentional decision making. So with that said, how does Meredith create safety?
Like a turtle crawl in my shell. I think my first instinct is to turn inward, get in my shell. And I think my second instinct is to learn and figure out whatever it is that I need to know for that situation.
And you know why I love that image? Because a turtle doesn't go hiding because it's weak. It retreats because its shell has protected its entire life. And I wonder if that's true for you.
I would say yes.
And that's where your nervous system language begins to show up. When life becomes uncertain, your nervous system doesn't say, how can I be difficult? It says, I need my shell. I want to put it on. That is not a problem. That's a beautiful little home. So what helps the turtle come back out?
Having clarity and having a plan. And then I can come out and I can move forward.
Clarity. And that's a beautiful answer. It's not pressure. You don't have to convince anyone. You don't have to tell someone to hurry up. It's just clarity. So what I'm hearing is that when life feels uncertain, you need enough clarity to feel safe to move forward. So the question then for the disc is, how often do you think people may mistake your need for clarity as hesitation?
Yeah, regularly. I think a lot of times people want answers and they want it now. And this is a prime reason why I don't answer my telephone. I need to be able to think and respond. And that's why I prefer email and text. Because in my life, that's where I feel safe, is when I have the time to sit and think and not just off the top of my head. So
what I think you just explained is how Meredith's nervous system creates safety. So for you, a phone call demands immediate response. A text or an email gives you space to think and organize and create clarity and respond intentionally. Notice what's happening. Before today, someone might have interpreted you as being unavailable and unresponsive or avoiding them. Today, Meredith has the tools to say, it's completely different. I'm not avoiding people. I'm creating enough space to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting automatically. Wow, that can change relationships.
I notice myself even doing that in my caregiver role. My mom will ask for something and she thinks I'm ignoring her, but I have heard and I'm thinking because I need to think it through before I give a response. Should I acknowledge that and explain that to her? Yes. But sometimes I just automatically flip back into my head and am thinking it through.
And I have to say to that, Michele does a wonderful thing. And having spent so much time with Michele, she always says, my silence is my thinking.
That's
And
good.
Michele is very, very good about saying that so that you're not sitting there thinking that she has not acknowledged or responded to you yet.
Thanks for that reminder, Karen. I forgot I do that regularly, don't
Do
I?
that often, yes.
All the time. My silence is my thinking. Yeah. So keep it, Meredith. Take it. It's true. My silence is my thinking. And Karen, what I love that you notice exactly why understanding ourselves matter. Meredith, it's not like you suddenly discovered you don't like phone calls. You already knew that.
Right.
What's changing today through this type of conversation and why we can't look at the report ourselves is how you're understanding it and why.
Mm-hmm.
And when we understand the why, we can communicate to the people we love instead of expecting them to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you learn something new about yourself. It's understanding the language to use and have. Because imagine if the people closest to you now, Meredith, can understand that one sentence.
Right.
Silence is my thinking. Instead of wondering, is she upset with me? Why is she ignoring me? What did I
Right.
do wrong?
Oh,
What did I
and
do
if
wrong?
you understood that and knew that, it could really, really save a whole lot of hurt feelings that shouldn't be hurt because it's not what it is. Yeah.
That's the difference experience. That's the relationship transformation. How would it feel to you, Meredith, to give yourself permission to tell people that?
Yeah.
And this is why I like connecting some of my favorite people.
Mhm.
That's, yeah. This light bulb has gone on above my head because you're right. I've known those things about myself, but never did I connect that and think about sharing it. That this is
Those are the moments that are most beautiful in the work that we do. Because for the last 15 minutes, I've seen this apprehension and fear and skepticism and the weight of what you are hearing. And I might be as bold to say, well, I'm like, this wiring is all wrong. And what I think finally, this one little aha is no wiring is wrong. You are not broken. You are perfect. And you're learning the language of how you're wired. And small little shifts can transform our relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
And I feel the relief, if I might say that.
No, you're right. Absolutely.
So let me ask you another question. What feels different about the way you see yourself now than when we started?
I think before this last part of the conversation, I knew how I was. I knew that I did these things. I did not understand that that was my safety, that that was how I felt safe. I did not recognize that that's why I did that. So that makes sense to me. And in my head, of course, I'm going back and back and back thinking, oh, this is where that started from. This is where that started from. This is how all that built up to where this is my safety place now. And then just recognizing that other people don't understand that that's who I am. They don't know that. Well, now they do because I've told the world, but before that, they didn't. So I know a lot of times it's taken that I'm ignoring them or I'm mad at them or, whatever. But it's that I need to be in my shell right now. I need to get that clarity. And it may not even have anything to do with them. It may be something totally different. But I need that clarity before I can move forward and I can respond and I can think clearly in a lot of ways. So I've learned a lot in this conversation.
So, Meredith, how do you think you're going to use some of this information moving forward?
First thing I'm going to do is talk to my mom and my brother about this, because I know, like I said, my mom asks a question and I don't respond. I'm in my head about it, trying to think how to work it out. My brother, same way. He'll ask something, think I'm upset with him, and it's not that. I'm just having to figure out, I'm the fixer in the family. You bring me a problem, I'm going to fix it. But I have to have time to figure out how I'm going to fix that. So I definitely am going to share that with them and work on making sure that the people who need to know that about me. But I think that's definitely beneficial to know.
Meredith, Michele, I just have to sit here and say thank you both for being so open and letting us share this with our listeners. I think this is such a huge area of growth and only one component of how we can grow. And I think personal growth is not something that we recognize often within this caregiver journey. So I do want to say thank you both for being so open and sharing this session with everyone. And for anyone who would like to reach out to Michele for any sort of DISC assessments or any grief education, we can find Michele at michelebordonaro.com. 1L with Michele here. And remember, caregivers, we are resilient, and that is an amazing quality in all of us. So until next time, take care of yourself while caring for others. And remember, you're never alone in the Caregiver Circle.
The Caregiver Circle is a podcast of two friends providing a place for connection, education, encouragement, and shared experiences. As caregivers, advocates, and lifelong learners, we share stories, resources, and conversations that have helped us along the way, with the hope that they may help you too. While we strive to share helpful information, the content of this podcast is not intended to replace professional medical, legal, financial, or mental health advice. Please consult qualified professionals regarding your specific situation and needs.